All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Real Graps. I'm your host, Joe Gierer on WIUR, Iowa University Radio. It felt good getting back in the studio last week, finally get some things off my chest. What I've thought of the product recently, everything that's happened, over the summer while I wasn't covering it. And I thought we were coming back at a pretty good spot with, everything in wrestling and everything in the state of the WWE, I thought was pretty good at the time that we came back. They had their big show coming up, WrestlePalooza, which we'll talk on very soon. But I want to open the show, first of all, by talking about something I've never talked about on this show, which is WWE LFG, the competition show that comes out on Sunday nights on A&E, where Undertaker, this season at least, Undertaker, Booker T, Michelle McCool, and Bubba Ray Dudley all coach certain PC Talent Performance Center, and the winner of the contract, the winner of the show at the end, ends up earning themselves an NXT contract. And I watched the recent episode that came out this Sunday night, and I just wanted to point out certain talent on that show that got eliminated. He goes by the name of Trill London. Real name is Trill Williams. He's a former NFL player, and I just wanted to give him some shine because he's only been in the PC for about 6 months, maybe. And I thought he's improved. He looks phenomenal for a guy who's only been there just a simple amount of time. And I had to shout this out, perhaps out of a little bias because I am from Yonkers and he's also from Yonkers. And we both went to the same high school, maybe not at the same time. He was gone the year I came in, but we did go to the same high school. And being from the same town and same high school, I just felt like it was appropriate to give him a little shout out because I feel like, in my opinion, perhaps with a little bias, I would have picked him to win the entire show. He was my favorite on the entire season. And like I said, it could be because we come from the same place, went to the same school, all that kind of stuff. But I wanted to give him some shine. If you guys do not watch WWE LFG, I would recommend that you tune in starting now. They're in playoff time, so it's starting to get to that point of the season where a winner will be crowned. And I didn't watch the first season. I watched this season, and I thought it's been very good. So I recommend tuning into that. And I wanted to give Trill London a shout out. He should be somebody who makes a splash in NXT at some point soon, hopefully, for me and in my opinion. The last thing I wanted to get out of the way in the beginning of the show is that reports came out recently of Piper Niven supposedly not only being out for an undisclosed amount of time with an undisclosed injury, but reports are now suggesting that this injury she's dealing with is potentially career-ending, which would be devastating, of course. You never want to see that for anybody. So prayers and thoughts out to Piper Niven. Hopefully she gets well soon and is able to make a recovery. A lot of these injuries have happened recently, I feel like, or at least more than normal. You don't hear about them very often, but Piper Niven now potentially suffering a career-ending injury if the reports are true. You have Kevin Owens, who suffered a neck injury back in February or January, around that time, and now he's out for an undisclosed period and doesn't know if he'll make a return to the ring. So, prayers out to anybody that are dealing with those types of injuries, and I hope that they all get well soon. So with that out of the way, it's time to dive into this last week in WWE. And naturally, I'd start with NXT and go in chronological order as to what happened this past week. But I feel like I should start with the elephant in the room, that, of course, being WrestlePalooza that happened on Saturday night. As the show itself, I thought was a little underwhelming, and it's mostly because of what Triple H promised. If you listen to him speak about it, they obviously are going to hype up this event that, it's going to be otherworldly, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. There's going to be a lot of surprises. That was his big promise. You never know what to expect. There will be a lot of surprises, so be on the lookout for those. And then you watch the event, 5 matches occur, and what was the surprise? Because there was no surprise. If we're being fully honest, there was 0 surprise on that entire show. I think everything that I said last week on my show actually happened. So there was nothing surprising for me in this, throughout this entire card. I almost predicted it exactly how it went down, which, like I said before, predictability is sometimes okay and sometimes good, and it's sometimes necessary for the show. But if you're going to go out on record promising that, there's going to be many surprises for the show, usually you have to follow through on that. And Triple H didn't do that. So that knocks the show down many notches for a guy like myself. And also, the quality of wrestling on the show was okay. The matches weren't as extravagant as you would have hoped for them to be for your debut on ESPN. I understand that now WWE is more focused on pulling in money and numbers rather than the actual quality of the product. But I thought the wrestling and the matches would be a little bit better than they were, if I'm being honest. I think match of the night for me was probably actually, we'll get there. We'll get there. I'm not sure yet. I'd have to decide. I haven't really thought about it too much, but the card opened with the Brock Lesnar and John Cena match that came out of nowhere following SummerSlam. And I said last week on the show that I had Brock Lesnar winning, and I had him completely squashing John Cena and sending him out in an ambulance, and that's how they write him off TV. It wasn't exactly the case, but the match kind of went the way that, I feel like we would have all expected, to be honest, because at this point in his career, should John Cena be beating Brock Lesnar in a match if Brock Lesnar is going to have a run that goes on for obviously a lot longer than John Cena's 5 dates that are remaining on his tour? He probably shouldn't win, but you could have made it a little competitive because it pretty much opened. It goes back to that SummerSlam match that they had a decade ago where Lesnar just comes out and completely obliterates John Cena. He took 3 AAs and kicked out right after. That was like the only offense that Cena got in the entire match. And Brock hit like, what he hit? 7 F5s, I think. I think 6 during the match and 1 after. So he didn't exactly send Cena out on a stretcher like I said he would, but it was kind of the match that I expected to happen, but it's the match I didn't really want to happen because it would have been nice to see them go out there for one last time and put on a good match. Because I'll put it this way. If Brock Lesnar is going to return and solidify himself again as this dominant force to be reckoned with in the WWE, how do you do that? Coming out there and beating a 40, almost 50-year-old John Cena with a squash match that happened a decade ago is not the way. You could have him come out there and squash people. You could have him go out there and squash multiple people if that's the way you want to do it. But to use one of John Cena's final appearances and final matches on that, I feel like was completely unwarranted and it was completely useless. So I feel like that was a total waste of John Cena's retirement tour because they had no build. The only time that they were together on screen was when Brock Lesnar attacked John Cena at SummerSlam with his big return and when he attacked him during the U.S. Open title match with Sami Zayn on SmackDown. That was it. So there was little to no build to this match, and I understand that because John Cena has only a limited amount of dates left on his tour. But at the same time, you have to use his matches well. And since SummerSlam, you've seen that he could put on that caliber of match. He went out there with Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam and put on arguably the best match of the night, of the weekend, of his career. You could say he was wrestling one of the best matches of his career in that match with Cody Rhodes. And then he came out and he did it again with Sami Zayn on SmackDown. They were having a phenomenal match before Brock Lesnar interrupted it. He even had a great match at Clash in Paris with Logan Paul. That was a really fun match. So John Cena is showing you that he's still able to do these things in his waning days, that he can put on this caliber of fun contest before his time is up. And you use one of his final matches to get squashed by Brock Lesnar. I understand the booking, I guess, of the match itself, but I definitely don't understand why John Cena was used in that spot, unless it was a personal request and he was being, adamant that this is what I want to do. Other than that, that match should have never been booked. But Brock Lesnar destroys John Cena. And one of the big things about that match, perhaps bigger than the match, was Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman returned on Friday Night SmackDown before WrestlePalooza. Brock Lesnar wanted to speak to him. Heyman came out, gave Brock a sick introduction before the match started. That was cool. That was a nice nostalgic moment that I'm sure a wide majority of the fan base appreciated. The crowd there in Indianapolis appreciated it for sure. But the match overall was a pile of nothing. It wasn't anything I was very impressed by. It's not something I was surprised by, and it's not something I was impressed by. So WrestlePalooza was off to a predictable and kind of underwhelming and bad start, if we're being honest here. Now, the following match saw the Vision face the Usos in their tag team match. An addition that was made late, perhaps on the day of the event, was that LA Knight was going to be the special guest referee. At the time that we spoke of last week, he was not the special guest referee, but I did predict he'd get involved in that match and potentially cost the Usos the match by interfering with Jay. He came out, was the ref. By the way, 10 out of 10 refereeing. That is exactly how a referee should operate a wrestling match because he went out there, he did whatever he wanted, he allowed anything he wanted. He was not strict by the rules like normal referees. It was very fun. It was a fun match. It was a fun match. And LA Knight being the special guest referee most definitely added on to it. And you saw a few moments during the match where there was tension between him and Jay, close calls. Jay almost hit him with a chair, but it was ultimately the Vision, as I predicted, that picked up their big win over one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Was that the original plan, though? Because I'm pretty sure there was an audible called in the ring, and I feel like you can hear it visually or hear it and see it when you're watching the match because there's a moment where Jay brings the chair up and hits Braun with it, but I don't know how. I think he hit himself on the forehead, right about here with the base of the chair, one of the legs, and it just bust him wide open. And he had himself a big cut. There was blood pouring down his face. It did not look very good. So I believe they called an audible. You kind of hear LA Knight go over to Braun and tell him, go spear him. And then immediately after that, Braun Breaker spears Jay, and they go to the finish where Braun spears Jimmy and Jay into the table in the corner. Bronson hits the tsunami and pins Jay 1, 2, 3. So I think I'd have to imagine that there was going to be some sort of tension or some moment late in the match that eventually caused the Vision to still win. Maybe. I don't know if Jay was supposed to do anything spectacular there. Like I said last week, maybe he was going to turn heel. I don't think that was the case. But whatever that original planned ending was to that match, I don't think that they followed through on it. I think they just called it and wrapped it up early because of the cut that happened to Jey Uso's forehead. But I think the winner was right. I think the Vision needed that win, especially after Roman Reigns and Jey Uso beat them at SummerSlam. They needed something big, and I feel like that was the something big that they needed to show that they are a dominant force on Monday Night Raw and in just WWE in general that everybody's going to have to deal with going forward. And they showed up on SmackDown on Friday, which we'll also talk about soon, and got themselves a nice big win. So the Vision picked up a big win against the Usos. And like I said, I think there was a forced pivot at the end due to the cut. But neither here nor there. We won't speculate on that. The third match of the evening was the Women's World Championship match between Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky, which I think was probably the best technical wrestling match of the night. And I don't think anybody is going to dispute that. That match was very, very good. And I don't think there was anything necessarily that led people to believe otherwise, that it wasn't going to be good, because you already saw Stephanie and Io get in the ring together once on the Raw after WrestleMania and then once on Raw after that. Both matches ended in a no contest due to disqualifications and disqualifications. Both matches ended in a no contest due to interference. So I was looking forward to finally having that one match where there's no interference. I kind of predicted that Asuka or someone would come out and maybe cost Io the match. I don't know why, but that didn't happen. And I'm glad it didn't happen because I wanted that match to be a clean one-on-one contest with no shenanigans and finally get a distinct and, definite winner of the two. And Stephanie Vaquer, I predicted to win. She did win, which I'm very happy about. I feel like Io did not need that championship at this moment. Io is arguably one of the best wrestlers in the world, regardless of gender, regardless of company. She's one of the best in the world. But having recently held the championship, I don't think it was needed for her to win it again. And Stephanie Vaquer, I don't know if she was booked to beat Naomi at Clash in Paris, if that match ended up happening, but I think that Stephanie Vaquer here is the right call because it's going to give her that boost that she needs, if she even needs one at this point, to go out there and be a superstar and to be that draw that the company really wants her to be. Because she's also one of the best wrestlers in the company, in the world, regardless of gender, you could say. She's incredible to watch. And she's been working extremely hard. I know I've seen her talk about her working on English to cut more promos and all that stuff. So she's obviously putting in that time and the effort to go out there and be the best version of herself. And I feel like she's definitely earned, even in what has it been since she came up to the main roster? Like 3 months, 4 months? in those just those few months alone, I feel like the fan base is definitely fully on her side, and she's 100% earned her shot at carrying the Women's World Championship. So I'm very happy about that. It was a great match. Uh, and yeah, Stephanie Valkyrie is your Women's World Champion. I'm excited to see where that goes. But her first match as champion is going to be for the Crown Jewel Championship in October in Perth against whoever wins the triple threat that's coming up on SmackDown this Friday, which I guess we'll have to wait about a month for her first title defense, which you never like to see a champion go that long without defending the championship. But in this instance, I guess it's allowed because she has a Crown Jewel Championship match that she has to prepare for and have. So, Stephanie McCurt, new Women's World Champion. In the co-main event of the evening, you saw that mixed tag team match go down with AJ Lee, CM Punk, Becky Lynch, and Seth Rollins. And it ended in the manner that I figured it would, where AJ Lee taps out Becky Lynch. It's kind of just how these things go in the business. When somebody makes a big return, they're going to end up, whether it's a tag match or whether it's just a one-on-one match, they're usually going to win, especially somebody like AJ Lee, who people have been clamoring for to come back for a decade. She's going to probably win that match, and she's going to get the pinfall or submission in that match. That's exactly what happened. She tapped out Becky Lynch, which is the outcome that I feel like I and many others predicted. Like I said, predictable is good sometimes. And that was an instance where I believe the predictable ending was the good ending because it sets AJ Lee up for her run in the future because she signed a multi-year contract with WWE. I believe that was the report. I think I'm like 99% sure, but she's going to go out there and she's going to have another big run. So getting her that win, especially over somebody like Becky Lynch, who's the self-proclaimed greatest women's wrestler of all time, and carrying the Intercontinental Championship, it sets her up. It puts her in a nice spot. And I'm sure we're not going to see that feud nor the feud with Punk and Seth stopping anytime soon. That's probably one of those ones that's going to continue on and on and on and on and on and on and on forever because of just the hatred between them in real life. So, but the match was a fun one. I think AJ did fine for her first time back. There was obviously going to be a little rust maybe early on, having not wrestled, especially in front of a live crowd in over a decade. So I feel like she did pretty well, and she definitely got her stride mid-match, late match, and it ended very well. Becky was getting a lot of slack for not selling the moves, which I didn't really pay any mind to. I don't really. That was nothing. Those are nothing complaints. There's a lot of people online that just like to complain, but I feel like that match was extremely fun. They had some cool spots in it. The spot where AJ got thrown into Punk, and then her, Seth, and Punk all went through the table. That was a nice spot. I just think it was really well done. I feel like they all did pretty well, and it was a nice introduction to get AJ Lee back into the ring and back into the swing of things, if you want to call it like that. There was a lot of people online that were praising her performance, a lot of people that were bashing it, but I think she did fine, all things considered. You can't expect somebody to re-enter the ring after 10 years out, especially in front of a crowd like that, and just instantly catch their stride. So AJ Lee did well, and I think, as I said last week, her tapping out Becky Lynch is going to set up an Intercontinental Championship match or full-on feud, and whoever wins that, I don't know, because I can definitely see them giving AJ Lee a title at some point in the near future, simply just because of how popular she is. And you want to get your championship on somebody that the fans are behind, and nobody is going to not be behind AJ Lee at this point, if we're fully honest. So AJ Lee probably going to feud for the Intercontinental Championship at some point soon. In your main event, you had that late match that got made between Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre for the undisputed WWE Championship. And it was not that special. It could have been a better match considering the talent that was in the ring. Cody did retain, which you kind of assumed he would. He had just beat John Cena at SummerSlam for the WWE Championship. And you kind of assume he's not going to lose in his first defense. That's not how Triple H operates, as we've clearly seen. When was the last time a champion lost the title in their first defense under the Triple H booking? Never, to my knowledge, at least, or at least in recent, memory. So Cody was definitely not going to lose that match, in my opinion, at least. But reports online were saying that there was actually that possibility and that Cody might have been one of the people pushing for it. That possibility was that Randy Orton comes out and interferes in the WWE Championship match at WrestlePalooza, and he accidentally costs Cody the championship, letting Drew McIntyre walk out as WWE champion. That would have been an incredible ending, and it would have validated everything that Triple H said going into the event, because his big thing was you have to expect surprises. There will be surprises. Stay in, keep tuned. You know what I'm saying? Uh, that didn't happen, like I said. But if you put the championship on Drew McIntyre, it would have validated that whole thing, because I don't think anybody would have saw that coming. Going into the match, I thought there was a slight chance maybe that Drew would get it, because people have been clamoring for Drew McIntyre to get the championship again forever. And he finally touched it at WrestleMania 40 and lost it right away with the cash in of Damian Priest. That obviously worked out in the long run, set him up for an ungodly feud with CM Punk that was feud of the year in WWE, far and away. But if you finally put that championship back on him and kind of kickstarted that Cody and Randy real feud, because they faced each other at King of the Ring. That's not a feud. That's a match. If you kickstarted maybe one of them potentially turning on the other one and getting that full-on feud going, whether it was for the championship or not, I feel like it would have been great. I feel like it would have been wonderful. And it would have, like I said, it just would have made Triple H look so much better if he pulled the trigger on it. And he's supposedly the guy that canceled that plan at the last minute. And I think that was a swing and a miss by him. It would have really gotten things rolling and gotten the ball rolling on the product and made people talk about it. And what's going to happen for Cody Rhodes? What's going to happen for Drew McIntyre? Yay, Drew McIntyre is finally champion again. There's obviously going to be a sector of the fans that say, yay, Cody is no longer champion. I'm not one of those exactly. I don't mind Cody Rhodes. I feel like I actually like Cody Rhodes, but there's a lot of people who are out there that really don't like Cody Rhodes, and they find him boring and they find him stale. So you would have pleased that sector of the fan base. And I really, really, really don't think that there's anybody out there that would complain if Drew McIntyre gets a world championship run after the work that he's been putting in and doing as a heel since he turned back in 2023. He's been phenomenal. So Drew McIntyre for champion, keep pushing it. I hope it happens soon. I still feel like he might be the guy to dethrone Cody. I'm not exactly sure because they already ran the first match of that feud. But I'll put it like this. Having a short world title reign in the year 2025 is pretty uncommon. The shortest one we saw recently was Gunther's second run with the belt. And I kind of only feel like that happened maybe because he got injured. And Gunther's another one. People expected him to come back at WrestlePalooza. He was nowhere to be seen. He was nowhere to be seen on Monday Night Raw last night. So where is Gunther? I don't know. Supposedly he's healthy again. You have guys like Ilya Dragunov that are healthy again, supposedly, and waiting to come back at the right moment. They got to start pulling some of these triggers, because those two that I just mentioned are some of the best wrestlers in the game, and people want to watch them get in the ring, put on matches, and put on a show. So Cody Rhodes, bottom line, still your WWE champion. I don't have a problem with it. I did prefer them go with the reported ending that Triple H turned down, but I hope that feud with Drew McIntyre, Cody Rhodes, and Randy Orton, maybe if they want to keep that going, I hope it continues, because I feel like it would be a nice piece of WWE television. But that's going to have to put on hold for a little bit, because, as I alluded to before with Stephanie Vaquer, Crown Jewel is coming up October 11th, I think, in Perth, Australia. You're going to have the Crown Jewel match, the Crown Jewel Championship match, men's and women's. And right now, the men's match is set to be Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins, undisputed WWE champion versus World Heavyweight champion. Last year, it was Gunther versus Cody Rhodes, and that match was fine. Cody got the win. And partially for that reason, I don't think that Cody Rhodes should get the win again come Crown Jewel against Seth Rollins. Obviously, we could talk about that more as we get, as we get closer to that event. But I don't think that a win at Crown Jewel is as necessary for Cody as it is for Seth, because of Seth's, I am the future character. I am the guy that's going to run this business. I'm better than all of you. He's kind of in that mindset as a heel right now. And having especially never beaten Cody in a one-on-one match, or in any match for that matter. I don't think he's even beat him in a tag team match. I think that win has to go to Seth Rollins. Whether it's by interference, I prefer it be clean, but I don't think it will be. But I think Seth Rollins will get that win, and I feel like he should get that win because it just gives his character just so much more crap to brag about. Come, months and months after that, because he's the crown jewel champion, he's the leader of the division, he's the world heavyweight champion, whatever you want to say. I feel like he needs that win. We won't talk about that any further because crown jewel is not yet here. It's not prediction week yet, so I'll leave that where it's at. That was WrestlePalooza. Show not the greatest, not the worst, but I feel like another component that plays into people bashing the show for what it was. I'm not bashing it for the reason because I don't watch the product, but AEW also had a pay-per-view earlier that day. And I know that AEW puts on great shows. I've seen it online. I just haven't watched the product myself. But people who do watch the product, it's like night and day when it comes to what happens. According to a lot of people, again, I don't know, 100% for myself because I don't watch it. But I just think that that might be like a factor playing into it. Like, oh, their show was so good and WWE's was just meh. So WWE's it gets a worse rep. I'm giving it the not great rep because I just don't think that the show itself was it wasn't as high quality as it could have been. And the booking decisions weren't as grand as they were promised or as they could have been. I'm happy that matches go through with no interference, but at the same time, I would have liked it if there was a little bit, like I said, with the main event. So that's it for WrestlePalooza. I thought it was an okay show. But now getting back to our regularly scheduled programming, NXT Homecoming was last week, as we talked about, beforehand. And, you kind of figured there was going to be a lot of returns and a lot of nostalgic moments. It was going to be that kind of show. And you saw that pretty early on when Triple H came out first, and then Shawn Michaels came out second, and they kind of went back and forth. And then William Regal came out and dropped the War Games line. And then Charlotte Flair came out to her old music, and Alexa Bliss followed her. And there was that opening segment before the Women's Tag Team Championship match, which kind of gave you that feeling and that idea that, yeah, this is going to be that kind of show where you just see a lot of old faces. It's going to be a feel-good show, nothing exactly very spectacular maybe, but it's going to be kind of a fun show for the audience to just, oh, look at him, look at her, look at him, look at her, and just relive like the good days, if you want to call them that. Not to say that NXT is not in the good days, because I do enjoy the NXT product, but everybody loved those old eras, like the black and gold era and that kind of thing. So just to see all the familiar faces, they were going to get a good reaction. And it was kind of just like a feel-good show for the fans. And like I said, you saw that with the opening segment early on with those five. Following that, Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair faced the Culling, Tatum Paxley and Izzy Dame for the Women's Tag Team Championships. They had a fine match, and it was Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair that retained. I don't think anybody went into that match expecting anything otherwise. So it was what it was. It was what it needed to be. And it was nice to see Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair wrestling on NXT. Like I said, give the fans what they want. And that's what they want. They want to see those old faces. Now, one thing that I don't think any fan expected was in a backstage segment, you saw Shayna Baszler make an appearance, and she was released months ago. So it caught me off guard. I'm sure it caught a lot of people off guard. She was royalty back in NXT. So to see her come back, it was like, whoa, like, why? What is she doing here? I thought she was gone. So it was a nice little backstage moment she had with Sol Ruka and Zarya, because they were kind of beefing a little bit after last week. Sol Ruka hit the Soul Snatcher on Zarya during their tag team qualifier match, I guess you want to call it, the number one contenders match. So she told them to fix what they got going on, because they have is pretty much like special. They're very good together. So it was nice to see her come back. It was, again, another feel-good moment for the fans. I don't want to say that over and over and over again, but that's what it was. That's what the show was made to be. It was made to be a feel-good show for the fans and relive some of the older characters. Shayna Baszler was a prominent character in NXT, so it was nice to see her come back, especially since she was released 3 months ago or whatever it was, and you haven't seen her since. So I had no idea she was going to be there. It was nice to see her. Nice little backstage segment, and that was kind of a theme throughout the show, where you have the older talent kind of rub on the newer talent backstage. Not too many of them came out to the ring and did their thing. So Shayna Baszler made a sighting, first of many backstage sightings throughout the show of old talent. Then, following that, speaking of talent that's old that did get in the ring, DIY, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, two of the most influential figures in recent NXT history. Everybody knows that. So what do they do on the NXT Homecoming show? They have them go out and have a match against Trick and Carmelo Hayes, another returning guy to NXT who was big for the brand, NXT champion for a while, I think multi-time. So to have those two come back together again, it's just more of like a nostalgia thing. It didn't necessarily have to make sense because Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes left each other off on a really bad foot. And as of 2 weeks ago, Trick was talking crap about Carmelo. So again, they got on the same page for the match. The Miz came out and made an appearance and helped those two pick up a win over DIY. It was a good win for them. I don't think anything comes of it. It was probably just a one-off, unless, which we'll talk about soon, Trick is going up to the main roster. Not saying that is or is not happening, but it's a possibility maybe that's been teased with this tag team match that happened on the Homecoming show. Sami Zayn came out backstage. He was giving an interview, I believe, and he gave Javon Evans his stamp of approval. So like I said, some of those talents that are coming up through the ranks with legends of the brand, Sami Zayn is another one of those. He gave him the stamp of approval. It gives Javon, who's been getting a lot of stamps of approval. He got one from Randy Orton way back when they wrestled. He got him from Undertaker. Now he gets it from Sami Zayn. He's constantly been getting those, like, clearly they want to do something with Javon. Javon's going to be champion at some point. It's inevitable. He's too good not to be. Perhaps he's too young to be, but he's too good not to be at some point. So I think Javon Evans is going to be the next big thing in NXT. And he's even wrestled on SmackDown already. He's 21 years old? He's younger than me. He's younger than me, and he's wrestling on SmackDown. So Javon Evans is special. I've talked about him last semester, this semester already. I won't waste any more time on him. Sami Zayn gave him the stamp of approval, and if it's worth anything, I give him my stamp of approval too. So moving on. Ethan Page had a North American Championship match against a returning Tyler Breeze, who I said last week hasn't even appeared on WWE television since before I started watching again. So he came back, had a nice North American Championship match with Ethan Page, his first match in like 4 or 5 years. It wasn't bad. Don't think anybody expected Tyler Breeze to win that match. So Ethan Page ultimately came out, retained the championship. And at No Mercy, Damian Priest, another sighting of many, I believe he gave Tavion Heights his stamp of approval in the back and announced that at No Mercy, it's going to be Ethan Page and Tavion Heights for the NXT North American Championship. I think it'll be a good match. They've gone well together so far. They've had their nice little feud. It was kind of America versus Canada at first, which is like a simple plot. But in NXT, you don't need anything very elaborate. It was kind of like a little feud. It's fun. It's going to come to a halt at No Mercy, I'm sure. I don't think that Tavion Heights is necessarily going to win that match. I think that Ethan Page is going to win that match at No Mercy. So Ethan Page is going to become, he's going to pick up another title defense in that match at No Mercy. Trick crashed the Grayson Waller effect. That was another thing they had going on. They brought back Grayson Waller to host the Grayson Waller effect with Ricky Saints and Oba Femi ahead of their No Mercy title match for the NXT Championship. And Trick crashed it, of course, talking how he usually talks, the usual Trick stuff, calling himself top dog, all this, all that. And then it got announced by Grayson Waller. It appeared to be his idea, but they made it official. And this one came out in left field. This is why I say it was supposed to be a show with nothing elaborate and nothing spectacular. But this was spectacular, and it's announced for tonight. And this is a very, very big deal. They're running Oba Femi versus Trick Williams, TNA Championship, NXT Championship, both on the line, winner takes all. And then the winner of the match takes both championships into No Mercy to face Ricky Saints and put both on the line again. That is a huge deal, and that shot out of left field. I don't think anybody saw that coming, especially this close to the event. But I do think it's going to be underwhelming for some people because I don't think there's going to be a winner. I don't know how the no contest happens. but I think that Oba has a scheduled defense against Ricky Saints. And in TNA, I'm pretty sure, like I said, I don't really watch too much outside of WWE. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. But TNA, I'm pretty sure, has a title match booked already with Trick and Mike Santana. So, how exactly would that work? Would they just do a title change? Would they give it to Oba Femi or Ricky Saints and just have him face Mike Santana? I feel like the feuds with Oba and Ricky and then Trick and Mike have been going on for a while now. So I don't necessarily believe that there's going to be a winner tonight. I feel like both guys are going to retain their championships. It's just going to be a fun like main event, and it was like a big announcement for last week. But you never know. Oba Femi could lose the championship and come up because a lot of people feel like he's ready and want to see him work in the main roster. Trick Williams has been in NXT forever. He could lose the championship, give it up to Oba Femi, let Oba run double champ status on both TNA and NXT, and Trick Williams could come up to the main roster and run something with The Miz and Carmelo Hayes. As I said before, Miz helped Trick, who teamed with Mello. That could work, maybe, potentially on SmackDown. They could run something with those three. So the possibilities are there. Me personally, I don't believe that there's going to be a winner. I feel like they're both going to leave with their belts and have their scheduled defenses, but I'm not a booker, so I don't really know what's going on. But that should be fun. That's a fun little twist to the match. There was a backstage segment where Charlie Dempsey said he was going to Japan. Bobby Roode showed up, another popular nostalgic face in NXT. You know what? I don't have to keep saying it. You know at what point this kind of match. Like everybody that returned to NXT was a baby face. Even if you were a heel, nobody returned as a heel. Nobody returned as a heel. They were all face. The biggest one being Finn Balor, which happened later in the show, but he wasn't even heel. He came out and he was a face. But Bobby Roode showed up. Joe Hendry popped up because his name got said. Say his name and he appears. And Bobby Roode gave Joe Hendry the rub, praised him for bringing the TNA championship to WrestleMania, and put him on a mission to win the NXT championship. There's a report going around also about Joe Hendry that he, by 2026, maybe early 2026, could be fully transitioned into a WWE talent. I don't know if that means NXT or main roster. Seems like NXT right now. But they're kind of transitioning him out of TNA slowly and into WWE more regularly. And he's going to become a full-time WWE talent, which to many will seem overdue, considering he got a huge pop at the Rumble and a huge pop at Mania when he came out. So maybe it's a little overdue. Some people don't want him here, which that's entirely their opinion. They can believe that. But I think it's overdue. I feel like he should have been more featured on WWE programming a while ago when he was in his element. And he still gets good reactions. So it's not really necessarily a missed opportunity to bring him in now. But it's good that they're finally doing it because that's somebody that they want to have on the roster if he's drawing the types of reactions that he did. So Joe Hendry is coming to WWE officially, it seems. As I mentioned before, Finn Balor came back while Lexis King cut a promo on Miles Bourne and announced their Lights Out match that I believe is happening tonight. Finn Balor came back. He gave Miles Bourne the rub. He helped him lay out Lexis King. But the biggest part was he did his old entrance. And you saw he was giving people, he was playing with the fans. He was not that angry, normal Finn Balor. He was in a very good mood, came out as a face, did his old entrance. It was a nice moment for everybody that remembers him doing that entrance. And they should bring it back. They got to bring it back because Finn's entrance now is whack. Nobody knows the theme song. Nobody knows him when he comes out unless you see the logo on the screen. It's like he gets no reaction. But if he got that theme song back, even as a heel, he would get a big reaction when he came out, Finn Balor. So I think that WWE hopefully will see that and hopefully pull the trigger on that sooner rather than later because everybody, I don't think there's many people that don't want to see Finn Balor back with that song, back with that presentation, and back in a freaking title picture because he hasn't been there in so long. His last time wrestling for a title was that triple threat match he had with Priest and Gunther back last year. So it's been a long time, and I feel like he should be in some sort of title picture. Go for the Intercontinental Championship. You have that feud going on with the Judgment Day and Dominic Mysterio. Go for the Intercontinental Championship. Give him something. He has the tag team championships again. Him and JD McDonough are not defending them, which sucks. They're featured. They're both on the show every week, but they don't defend the championships. You have champions, you have to have them defend the championships, or else the championships just get forgotten. That's what happened for so long with Julia's US title on SmackDown. She hasn't defended it. They just recently started featuring her a little bit more, and she's had a couple defenses, which is nice. She's very talented, should be defending the title, but I hate when titles are put on people. Like when Shinsuke Nakamura had the US title. He got the US title and he did nothing with it. He wasn't even featured on the show. You forget that title even existed. I don't want to go on a rant, but the booking, if I was booking it, I'd book titles just like Sami Zayn's US title run, especially mid-card titles, exactly how Sami Zayn's US title run is being booked right now, where he took over the US Open Challenge and has been running defenses pretty much weekly. Belts are made to be defended. Champions are champions to defend the belt and remain champion. They don't just sit out on the side. So they got to do something about that. I don't know how we got from Finn Balor coming back to NXT to this point, but we're going to move on. I didn't mean to go out on a rant, but there was a moment where Montez Ford confronted Dark State backstage, and they showed Bianca Belair in the crowd, who hasn't been around since Evolution. Still rehabbing an injury, I assume, but Bianca Belair is hopefully coming back soon, hopefully getting healthy. They showed her in the crowd. Nice moment for the fans again, because she was big on NXT. But I miss seeing Bianca on my screen wrestling. Hopefully she comes back very soon. But it was nice to at least see her on programming and remember, oh, she exists. She hasn't been around in so long, but she's still there. She's still pushing. The main event was Rhea Ripley, Stephanie Vaquer, and Lyra Valkyria going against Fatal Influence, that being Fallon Henley, JC Jane, and Jasmine Nix. It was originally supposed to be Tiffany Stratton, but I think after a nasty bump she took in her match with Jade Cargill, they decided to be cautious with her. She wasn't medically cleared to wrestle. So it was Lyra instead. But again, it's not like you're just throwing in some random. Lyra was NXT champion, beat Becky Lynch for the belt, and had a long run with it until she got it taken by Roxanne Perez. So good match. Rhea, Stephanie, and Lyra won, of course. It was not without help. Lola Vice came out and gave JC Jane a back fist into a riptide. She got pinned, but Lola Vice is the number one contender for the NXT championship at No Mercy. So naturally, it's nice that she got that moment with the main roster talent to kind of elevate her contender status, if you want to say it like that. I don't know if you could exactly say it like that, because I don't know if she's going to win. I don't think she's going to win, but she got that moment to have with Rhea, Stephanie, and Lyra. So that's how the show ended. Good ending. Good guys win, and all that. SmackDown, Friday night before WrestlePalooza. I won't talk about anything that directly impacted the show on Saturday night, because that's irrelevant at this point, because the show already happened. So I won't be talking about like the contract signing or whatever happened with Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre at the end of the show, because that match already happened. It has no bearing. So with that in mind, also in mind, I was busy on Friday, so I didn't exactly get to watch the show. I caught up with it afterwards. But what I thought was important from it, you had Brock Lesnar come out in the beginning and attack the commentary, and he laid out Corey Graves, and to the point where he couldn't commentate anymore, and The Miz came out on commentary. A lot of people were excited at that, because Corey Graves used to wrestle, as many people know, and he hasn't been able to, I think, because of injury issues and health issues and that. But the fact that he got in there and took multiple F5s from Brock Lesnar makes people think that he is in wrestling shape again, and he could potentially be getting back in the ring and making a return, which would be fun. It'd be cool. It'd be nice. But Brock Lesnar laid out commentary, doing casual Brock Lesnar stuff, just going out, doing whatever he wants. That happened. Charlotte and Alexa had a tag title match against the Secret Harvest, being Chelsea Green and Alba Fire. They retained their championships, which you kind of figured they would. They're going to have a good reign with those. Bo Dallas kind of played off the Street Profits and the tension that's going on between them, and he's kind of trying to split them up. You could see it backstage. Eric Rowan attacked the two after he got his words in, but I think the Street Profits are going down. I don't think they're going to be together very much longer, because they're finally teasing the split. And that's one of those tag teams, if they were to just stay together forever, I would be fine with it. But they're teasing the split, and it seems like it's going to happen sooner rather than later with the influence of the Wyatt Six. So Bo Dallas got involved, kind of planting the seeds for one of them to potentially turn on the other one, or both of them to just split and turn on each other. whichever way that ends up going. The Vision, as I mentioned before, had a big match with Fraxium on Friday Night SmackDown. They got a win. I heard that match was great. I'm sure it was because, like I said many, many times on this show, going back to last semester, I think Fraxium is the best in-ring tag team in WWE. They perform so well every time they go out. And whenever you see them on the screen, you know that something is going to happen, and whatever is going to happen is going to be great. And I heard that match was great. I'm kind of upset I didn't watch it, but the Vision picked up a win. No surprises there. They needed it going into the following night, and then they picked up their big win the following night against the Usos. The triple threat that got announced for this Friday's SmackDown is Nia Jax versus Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill for the WWE Women's Championship. Winner of that is going to go on to face Stephanie Vaquer at Crown Jewel in Perth for the Crown Jewel Championship. That match last year was Nia Jax versus Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan picked up a big win, and I don't think Nia Jax is going to see herself in that match again. So you're most likely getting Tiffany Stratton versus Stephanie Vaquer at Crown Jewel in October. I don't think Jade is going to win a triple threat match for that title. Sami Zayn had a U.S. Open Championship match against Carmelo Hayes that was set up last week. That match, of course, from what I saw of it, was great. Both guys are phenomenal in ring. Melo gets finally another title shot after forever without one. And they put on a good show. Sammy got the win, of course. Miz was commentating and cheering for Melo on commentary, which was a nice little addition. But Sami Zayn retained, still U.S. champion, still doing the Open Challenge, which I've really enjoyed so far. I feel like he's doing it justice, as John Cena did way back when in 2015 when he did it. So Sami Zayn having a fun reign so far, and hopefully he continues on this path that is on going forward. Damian Priest completely snapped over Aleister Black in the backstage and threw Kit Wilson to a wall, who was calling him toxic and all this kind of stuff. And that Priest Black feud has been going on for a while now. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. And I'm enjoying it, so I don't want it to go anywhere because those two are good and they both put on really good matches together. So hopefully that culminates in something big, probably a no disqualification match or something like that. And then finally, Solo Sikoa had a promo that went on with Tongaloa before it was a video package promo. Don't know where everyone else is. Where was JC and where was Talatonga? But it was only Tongaloa. He called him his only, what was the wording he said? I think he said he was his only loyal soldier left or something, and promised him good fortune if he trusts him. So don't know what's going on with Solo's MFTs or whatever they're called now, the bloodline, the MFTs. Don't exactly know what's going on there, but the other two were nowhere to be found. Now, to wrap this up, Monday Night Raw from last night. One thing I thought was interesting was that you had no CM Punk and AJ Lee. They picked up their big mixed tag match win last Saturday night. AJ's big return to the ring, and they weren't featured on the show. So I don't know what's going on there. Maybe just a little rest. I don't think it's anything serious. They'll probably be back next week to address that, but they weren't on the show, which was a bit unexpected and a bit surprising. Some of the stuff that happened, not going in chronological order. We'll just talk about certain things in certain places. Dominic Mysterio is screwed, and I said this last week too, but Rusev completely pressed him during LA Knight's entrance to the building at the very beginning of the show. That's how it opened. A little bit later in the show, Dominic was kind of coming to the Judgment Day for help. They were kind of resistant at first. JD eventually agreed because Roxanne Perez pushed him to, and then Dom set up JD McDonough versus Rusev for the Judgment Day. He said it was for the group. It wasn't anything. Obviously, it's, you know how that's all going, but they're clearly creating some friction between Dominic Mysterio and the Judgment Day. That's eventually going to boil over into something. But JD and Rusev had a match. It was perfect, in my opinion. It went exactly how it was supposed to go. They're both phenomenal. JD McDonough is incredible in the ring, and he and Rusev put on an absolute banger. It was a fantastic match. Rusev tapped him out, kept the accolade locked in far after the match was over, and you saw Dominic Mysterio in the background just like paralyzed. He didn't really want to go in and get involved and help JD. And then Finn came out naturally. He was already angry at Dom, even more angry after that happened because Dom wasn't assisting JD in getting away from Rusev. But clearly, Dominic has started to go into business just for himself and stop really worrying about the group. unless he can really, like, I guess, help. But against somebody like Rusev, he's clearly scared, so didn't do anything. And they made that match official for next week. Dominic Mysterio versus Rusev for the Intercontinental Championship. There is no world in which Dominic Mysterio should be beating Rusev in a one-on-one match if there's no interference from the outside. I'm sure you're going to see people interfere outside. It's got to be at least, I don't think one interference is enough. Maybe not even two. I think it's got to be three interferences to help this guy retain the championship against Rusev next week. And if not, Rusev is going to become the new Intercontinental Champion as early as next Monday. So Dominic, his time is probably coming to an end as Intercontinental Champion pretty soon, and he'll just remain AAA Mega Champion. There was a great match between Penta and the War Raiders I wanted to give some shine to. They had a no disqualification match, and Penta hit some wild. He hit a springboard Canadian Destroyer, Mexican Destroyer to end that match on Grayson Waller, which he's been, last week he pulled off the springboard. This week he pulled off the avalanche. So that guy, you never really know what to expect except something great. That match was really fun. It was a really good, in my opinion, opening promo between Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes leading into Crown Jewel, where Seth kind of showed his insecurities, and he said Cody doesn't really believe in him to be QB1 because Cody believes that he's the right guy to lead the company into the future. Seth Rollins is taking that as like a jab, like, you don't think I'm good enough. And then Cody obviously reminded him that he's never beaten him. So what does that really tell you? I thought it was a good, nice, like, fine opening promo. Seth pulled out the watch that Cody gave him after WrestleMania 40 and kind of threw shade at it, like, oh, I haven't worn it since then, blah, 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 that kind of thing. It was a good promo. It was a good way to get the ball rolling on Crown Jewel in a few weeks. And yeah, I thought it was good. One of the bigger stories of the night was Jey Uso. He went behind Jimmy's back to get a one-on-one match with LA Knight, whereas Jimmy wanted a rematch with The Vision. Jay's kind of going into business for himself now. And it's evident that he's kind of getting fed up and he's starting to just act out of wanting to get back to the World Heavyweight Championship. And it's starting to drive him crazy, which, like we said last week, was kind of what Jimmy was worried about when Jay was going to win the WWE Championship from Roman Reigns. He didn't want him to turn out like that. And slowly but surely, he's kind of getting there after winning and losing the World Heavyweight Championship. Cody tried to smooth things over. Him and Jay had a nice little talk, but Jay kind of gave him like a weird look as he like walked away. I don't know if that was anything but Jay just trying to be intense, but he kind of gave Cody the weird look as he walked away. And LA Knight said he tried to help Jey Uso. It's Jey Uso's fault. Pretty much the same thing that's been going on for the last 4 weeks, except this time it didn't main event the show. It's not the same ending as it always is. Jey Uso picked up the win against LA Knight off what was a pretty good match and one of his best spears that he's delivered. The Vision got involved and LA Knight tried to take them out. Jay just took advantage, speared him, splashed him, won the match, and got out of there. Didn't even help. Jimmy came out to help LA Knight after the Vision tried to attack him after the match, ran down with a steel chair. Jay just walked backstage, didn't want any part of it. So clearly, still, things are not smoothed over with him and LA Knight, and that feud is going to continue. But it's a little, we're getting closer. We're getting closer to Jay fully turning and going bad. Maybe he's joining the Vision. Why did the Vision come out and help him? Maybe indirectly or not, but they technically helped him get the win. So is Jay going to join that group? Was he talking to Seth Rollins a few weeks ago on the phone when he told Jimmy not to worry about it? I don't exactly know what's going on. When is Roman going to come back? Is Roman going to try and pull Jey Uso away from Seth Rollins if that's the route that they're going? Is Roman's going to feud with Jay and Seth over that, bond, whatever it is? I don't know what it's going to be, but that seems to be the route that they're going in. And there's a Vision versus Usos tornado tag match next week, which I'm sure that the Vision is also going to win. And it's probably going to be because of LA Knight. That's my guess. So yeah, rematch there. Lyra Valkyria and Bayley's story continued. We're running out of time here. I got to speed this up. Lyra Valkyria and Bayley were back on good terms, it seems. Lyra went out. Bayley and Roxanne had a good match, and then afterwards, Bayley snapped again and turned on Lyra, told her to get out of there, and then went out and told commentary again. So she's going all bonkers and crazy. She'll face Raquel Rodriguez next week on Monday Night Raw. Stephanie Von Kurt came out, cut a gracious promo, gave thanks to the fans. She's now WWE Women's Champion or Women's World Champion, sorry. And she got news that she'll face Friday's triple threat winner at Crown Jewel. Becky was irate, wants to make an example of some people. Nothing came of that on the night. Probably going to happen next week or maybe on Friday night. Who knows where the hell they're going to end up soon. They made a new faction called Los Americanos with the 3 Grande Americanos now that showed up. And they're going to end up in tag action next week against AJ Styles and Dragon Lee. So there's that. But the primary focus of the night was on Asuka, Rhea, Io. Those 3. Asuka and Rhea got made backstage for the main event. They went out, had a good match. Asuka did disrespect Io as somebody who loses. She's not going to take advice from in the backstage. Rhea kind of warned Io to be careful of her, and Io took it really poorly, like as if she was attacking Asuka and she didn't take too kindly to it. So the match happens. Rhea wins by roll-up after Asuka kind of misfired on Kairi Sane. And then after the match, they both attacked Rhea Ripley. Asuka kind of gave Kairi commands and she kind of reluctantly took them. And then they attacked Io and they turned on Io officially. Well, Asuka at least. Kairi just did it because she's scared of Asuka and she follows orders from her because Asuka got her to where she is. So officially Asuka turned on Io Sky. That feud is going to culminate in probably a great match because when does Io Sky ever go out there and not have a great match? That was WWE of the past week. Thank you for tuning in. WIUR Radio. I'm Joe Gierer, and I'll see you next week. Tune in at 5. I'll be back. I have another show coming up, that one about MMA, if you're interested in the UFC. That's it for me. I'll see you guys later.